We are a generation that will be known to be people that will love our food. We love to eat during celebrations. We love to eat every so often. And food has become really part of our culture. It's so often that we find ourselves eating with friends, eating alone. We eat in the shops, we eat in the buses, we eat everywhere. And no wonder it's become a little bit of an issue whereby our waistlines are growing bigger. Obesity is becoming a problem day after day after day. We are having issues to do with overweight and obesity. This does have, of course, underlying issues where we have, for example, and it predisposes individuals to an increase in things like heart diseases, where the pumping and the flow of blood in the heart is restricted because of sometimes if you are overly carrying a lot of fat around the body, which some of it can deposit around vital organs in the body. And so it becomes very important for us to think about ways, or people are becoming more aware of ways of trying to reduce the food that they eat or ways of trying to lose weight. And some of these ways that you're trying to lose weight need to be ways that are responsible, there are ways that are healthy, and there are ways that can be of use to yourself. One thing I need to mention, even as I'm talking about this next way of which people have successfully used to lose weight, it's not an advice that I'm giving because I'm not a medical professional, but it is something that I'm sharing because I know the impact that it can have when it comes to weight loss. And this will be intermittent fasting. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos before. It is something that if you've ever thought about losing weight, maybe you've practiced yourself, maybe you've seen it being talked about, maybe you've heard about it, and it's something that is a very interesting and very easy strategy that can be used when it comes to weight loss. So what is intermittent fasting? This is where you only eat during a specific time or duration of time. You end up restricting yourself within a given window, and you say, for example, I'm not going to eat in this time, and during that time you're fasting. And whenever you're fasting, there are studies that have shown that fasting for a certain number of hours each day, or just eating one meal a couple of days a week, can help your body to burn weight, to burn fat, and to lose weight. So how does intermittent fasting work? By restricting food, our bodies will become more quickly and efficient in tapping our fat stored as stores for energy. While glucose from carbohydrates is the most direct fuel source, we burn fat for energy when glucose isn't available, and that's what happens when we fast. This happens even more during times of food deprivation, and our ability to store fat is usually limited. So intermittent fasting can be done in a variety of ways, but one thing I also need to mention is that there is no perfect fasting plan. It is really what you think is the best way to do it, and what really works well for your plan, and what works well for your needs. So when you're looking at intermittent fasting, or how does it work really, you choose during a given window of time that you're going to restrict yourself. You can set, for example, a couple of hours where you're not going to be eating. And when you're not eating, you might resort to having things like 0-calorie drinks, which could be like black coffee, it could be water. And so you end up deciding like you're going to spend a couple of hours a day without eating. And so you decide whichever plan will work out well for your needs. There are a couple of plans that have actually been put into place that have been used effectively for intermittent fasting. One of it is you can choose to try a window of 16-8, which is where you're eating 8 hours and fasting for 16 hours. Or there is another approach where you do the 5-2 approach, which involves eating regularly 5 days a week. And then the other 2 days a week, you will limit yourself to just 500 or 600 calories in that day. So you might be thinking, so what am I supposed to be eating on the days when I'm practicing intermittent fasting? Of course, so the times when you're fasting, water and 0-calorie beverages such as black coffee and teas are permitted. But during the times when you're not fasting, then of course you can eat a regular meal, but that does not mean that you go crazy with it, because if you go crazy with it, eating supersized fried items and etc. or junk food, you're not likely going to end up losing any form of weight. So again, something to think about when you're deciding which window to eat and which window not to eat, and what to eat and what not to eat on a fasted day. So once you've done that, you will be wondering and asking yourself, so why am I really restricting myself from eating food? There are benefits that have been shown. Intermittent fasting can help with thinking and memory. Studies have discovered that intermittent fasting boosts working memory in animals and verbal memory in adult humans. And maybe that can be something that can be useful when you're thinking about it in terms of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting again is also healthy. It's healthy for the heart. Intermittent fasting has improved blood pressure and restrict heart rates as well as other heart related measurements. And this means that if you practice intermittent fasting, that can be beneficial when it comes to the health of your heart. Intermittent fasting as well can enhance physical performance. Young men who fasted for 16 hours showed fat loss while maintaining muscle mass, where there's been also studies that have been done that have shown that mice were fed alternative days showed better endurance in running, and of course physical activity is enhanced in that case. The other thing to think about when it comes to intermittent fasting are things to do with the muscles. So, what has been shown is that the tissue health of the muscles, the tissue in the muscles have been shown to, intermittent fasting had been shown to reduce tissue damage in surgery and improved results in the sense. Of course, also something else to think about is things like weight loss, whereby if you do or practice intermittent fasting, you can end up with weight loss. And once you have weight loss, of course, that can prevent things like obesity, can reverse things like type 2 diabetes. But be careful with intermittent fasting if you have type 1 diabetes. One thing again that I need to mention, intermittent fasting, you need to stay clear of it if you are a child or children and teens under the age of 18, women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, people with type 1 diabetes who take insulin, because while an increasing number of clinical trials have shown that intermittent fasting is safe in people with type 2 diabetes, there have not been any studies that have shown this to be effective in type 1 diabetes. And of course, those people who have type 1 diabetes, they take insulin. There can be a concern that intermittent fasting eating patterns may result in unsafe levels of hypoglycemia or low levels of blood sugar during fasting. And that's something that can be worrisome. Of course, also those people that have issues or any eating disorders should not participate or practice in intermittent fasting. Again, just to mention, these are things that I'm sharing from experience and things that I'm sharing from my knowledge, but it's not something that I'm encouraging somebody to participate in. If you're trying to incorporate any new diet plans or changing things that include fasting, please always consult with a medical profession before embarking on any weight loss journey.